Prince, according to a number of insider rumors and underground rumors, Harry's name has been trending once more, but not for any noble reasons. Something extremely unsettling happened behind the gates of Montecito, and while the palace is eerily silent, what is coming out is enough to leave jaws on the floor. It is said that Harry was discovered unconscious in his California home, and it wasn't just a random fainting spell. Rather, it was linked to heavy drug use. What's worse is that as her husband was being taken to the hospital, Meghan Markle allegedly fled the scene to party with her inner circle at a secret members-only club. Let that sink in. This is where things start to get really messy. Harry getting involved in drug rumors isn't exactly breaking news.
Amount of drugs, marijuana, magic mushrooms, cocaine. I mean, that's going to surprise people.
But important to acknowledge.
That shouldn't affect him too much, but it just shows he's a very stupid man. Because there's so many instances. I mean, one of the things that he's been complaining about...
magic mushrooms, you kind of...
I think you're an idiot.
This wasn't...
According to reports, he was in recovery for hours before stabilizing, and the people who should have been by his side were nowhere to be found. Meghan, instead of staying, allegedly dipped immediately to create an alibi, and that's not just speculation. She was reportedly seen laughing it up with friends at an exclusive club that same night as if nothing had happened. However, this story isn't just about one bad night. There's a dark undercurrent running through it all because if these reports are true, it's not just a wild night out or a hazy Vegas Strip memory. Are at least partially accurate, then even biographers like Penny Jr., who documented royal life for decades, have hinted that Harry's substance abuse problems predate Meghan's arrival. Let's go back to the early 2000s, when rumors began to circulate that Harry was experimenting with alcohol and marijuana. Insiders claim that this was not just a case of teen rebellion. His behavior quickly escalated, leading to blackouts of harder substances and some serious panic from royal aides behind the scenes. But yes, when he was caught, Prince did not face consequences. There are now resurfacing stories from 2007 that show Harry doing things most people wouldn't believe, like snorting vodka. Not drinking it, but snorting it, which no one would ever think of, and no, it's not some college prank.
Charles reportedly built a
literal private nightclub like that was never going to solve anything even more bizarre. Medical professionals have stated that this technique can cause death practically immediately by sending alcohol directly to the brain, avoiding the liver, but at the time, the media hardly reported on it since News of the World, one of the few publications to do so, was closed. While all of this is happening, Meghan's name keeps coming up, but not in a positive way. According to some sources, she has been fully aware of Harry's problems and has even been enabling them. She allegedly uses drugs to maintain control, keeping Harry in a dazed, dependent state while she handles the narrative. It's a terrifying accusation, but it's not coming out of nowhere. The fact that Meghan had a past before she was ever made Duchess of Sussex is what really ignites this whole situation. Not because of her acting abilities. Meghan had already established a name in some Hollywood circles. Party favors from the first wedding in Jamaica are still being discussed. And no, we're not talking about candles and thank you notes. According to reports, guests were given gift bags with rolled joints inside that Meghan herself had prepared. Some guests were unaware of what they were carrying until they returned to the United States, a detail that could have put them in serious legal trouble. That small stunt alone suggests that Doria is not exactly new to the drug scene. Insiders close to Meghan's mother assert that Doria has a past with California's criminal underground and is rumored to have close connections to some shady groups, whether or not that is accurate. The theory that the Markle women have always known where to get what they need and how to keep people in line is made darker by what people are saying about Meghan's control over Harry. It is said that she not only tolerates his addictions, but also uses them as a leash to keep him quiet, compliant, and broken. However, it isn't just about one woman. The true surprise is how many individuals close to Harry have been aware of for years and have said nothing about it. From seasoned royal reporters to palace insiders, everyone appears to have a story about Harry acting out of control or about crazy behavior, drug-fueled rants, violent outbursts, and emotional breakdowns behind the scenes. But every time the story was about to leak, royal family public relations teams would step in, slap a charity project or military photo op over it, and Harry would be back in the public's good graces by Monday. There was even a documented case buried in old tabloid clippings where Harry reportedly inhaled an entire canister of laughing gas during a hospital visit, the kind of canister that is strictly regulated. Perhaps because they already know the answers and don't want to deal with the aftermath, the press appears inclined to inquire. In addition, there is the military connection. During Harry's time in the army, there was talk that drug tests were either conveniently avoided or faked. According to one former palace staffer, Harry was flown out of the base right away when a surprise test was announced. Another source claimed that there was an incident involving both cocaine and vodka during that time, but the palace protected him once more. Fast forward to the present, and we have a man who is becoming more and more addicted while everyone around him is avoiding him. Plays dumb. The palace is on red alert because Meghan is allegedly setting up alibis, but they won't say anything, and the press is silent unless it's nonsense. Meanwhile, David has been by Harry's side through every chaotic chapter, from the Vegas years to the Montecito mess. He knows the whole story and is the one who called for Harry's help, but even with Langdown's intervention, the damage may already be too great because this isn't just a single overdose or a single error. It's a slow-motion collapse, and everyone involved has blood on their hands, from the enablers to the... Those who chose to ignore Harry isn't just a prince who made a few mistakes. He's someone who was born into privilege, shielded from the repercussions of his decisions for decades, and now stands on the precipice of something far darker than a bad headline. There's a reason the palace is shaken when a royal goes rogue. It's not just about image, it's about legacy. According to insiders, Charles was personally informed that if these stories are accurate, what we are seeing is not a period of rebellion, but rather a guy devoured by a lifetime of suppressed trauma, unbridled freedom, and toxic manipulation. No official statement or press release was issued when Harry was admitted, but behind the scenes, phones were ringing all night in London. The royal machine rushed to contain the story rather than fix Harry, because if this goes wrong, it could destroy the carefully crafted narrative they've spent years curating. If the rumors are true, Mick will be held accountable by the palace because her absence speaks volumes and presents a picture of someone who is not only cold-blooded but also calculating, according to those close to the situation. Alibi the optics are worse now that Harry's name is making headlines about addiction hospitals and emergency response. Previously, it was Harry who raised the issue, but now Meghan is being openly discussed as the true liability she ties to her past influence, and they're no longer dismissing it as tabloid nonsense. Senior officials have reportedly begun re-examining events from the past 5 years in an attempt to find P. They want to know how deeply involved she is, whether she supplied the drugs or isolated herself. Where does Doria fit into all of this? She has been quiet in the background, rarely giving interviews or making appearances, but some insiders claim that Doria has a more active role in Meghan's life than people realize. If drugs were a factor in Harry's downward spiral, there is speculation that Doria may have helped facilitate access. However, nothing is proven, but the fact that these questions are even being asked within royal circles shows how serious this has become. Behind closed doors, lawyers are preparing for a public backlash if Harry doesn't recover fully, or if he talks about what's happened. The whole thing could blow up, and if it turns out that Meghan was even slightly responsible for his demise, the palace won't protect her this time. One truth, though, breaks through the chaos. Harry is not well, whether it began with childhood trauma, teenage rebellion, or adult heartbreak. He is a man drowning in pain, and his story has been turned into a media circus, a Netflix special, or a best-selling book. But behind the scenes, the fame and the fairy tales, there's a broken man who never really got the help he needed, and perhaps that's the most tragic part of all. A wounded soul. He was born into a royal family that valued appearance over healing, and now that choice is coming back to haunt them.